Brenda Demonbreun with Holy Antiseptic Publishing House. We are excited today to move into the world of rap, hip-hop music. We've got some local talent here that's getting ready to do some amazing things for the kingdom. I would love to introduce Eric 6xye Johnson. Will you tell us how you came to love hip-hop so much and how you got started and why?
I guess it's just the fact that music was always in my life. I was the kid who, when we were growing up, everybody wanted to do cartoons on Saturdays. And my mom knew that that didn't move me. For me to get up and get going, I had to hear Soul Train.
Yes.
And then when I heard that, now that started me on a Soul Train, from Soul Train to American Bandstand. From American Bandstand later that evening to Solid Gold. From Solid Gold, it was going to be Wolfman Jack, Midnight Special. I've always been a music kid, and a new art form came while I was growing up. My mom, they used to do the blues, and I hated it, and would ruin family functions because I'm like, why do we have to listen to that? And all of a sudden, something that was tailor-made for us came into being, hip-hop. That's what they called it. First time I saw it, I was at a R&B festival here in Franklin at the old rodeo grounds, and I knew it was something that I wanted to do. Kind of took me as a way to get away from, I used to be the butt of the jokes because I was always the chubby kid, the fat kid. I've always been taller than everybody, but it was more white, and so I used to get jokes and everything, and I took it and realized one day that I could rhyme, and it just went from there.
So you knew your calling early. You knew your gift and your talent.
Yeah, I would say I did. I wasn't, my dad was a drummer, and my grandfather was a carpenter, so I say that I always had a rhythm in my life.
You got this organically.
If you want to say that. I mean, I honestly used to look at people and think that everybody should be able to just for 10 minutes just rhyme over whatever. And I found out that, okay, no, it's not for everybody. It's a gift.
It is a gift. And I remember at 16, 17, Fat Boys and Run DMC and Curtis Blow and parties, and they just ignited in something inside of us. It was the beat and the lyric. It didn't even have to make sense. We just thought it was the best. And so I do want to say this. Moving into Tupac, very, very, very gifted individual. And I believe that he brought the reality of the pain of the Black ghetto, Black impoverished neighborhoods. And I think that it ignited so much because people could relate to the pain and the lyrics that he was speaking. So it started to become, I think, an emotional outlet for people because they could, even like love songs. You break up with somebody and you go turn it on, how it's music that comforts that pain.
It's the situation.
Same situation. Yeah. And so we watched, whether I say hip hop, rap, I don't have my terminology.
You're all right.
I'm
I can help you with
that. It moved. This rap music started to evolve and change, and like with the movement. And so we can get into the whole discussion about what we hear a lot about, the lyrics and the violence and the female objectification. And, as we were talking before we even take this, that they were expressing the environments in which they were living. And if I hadn't spent time on Southside Chicago as a child, I wouldn't realize it either. but they were expressing what they woke up to and had to deal with on a daily basis.
That's it.
And as far as being a woman, again, I had to realize when I know my worth, no word, no lyric can puncture that. But as a gifted, seasoned individual in this industry, can you walk us a bit through the tides and the changes that rap music has evolved?
You actually said a great point when the fact you said that it was fun. It was, it was ha 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 ha. That was a laugh. But everything in life isn't always funny. And you had people that were like, man, I can do what he does, but I'm not here to it's not a joke to me. You know what I'm saying? I'm waking up in the morning and there is nothing to eat. And I got a friend down the street that can give me X amount of this to make money out of to feed my mother and my family. Even now, back then you used to get paid once a week. But some people didn't have 5 days to give because tomorrow the lights are gonna be turned off. And so it became a answer to, this is what I see. I understand you're funny, but life ain't funny for me, so I'm gonna tell you about what I see. And it happened before Pop. It happened before Biggie. You had NWA. They were, credited with really being the first to bring that street to that level, to make you see it dangerously close. And it was even before them. It was always an element of it there, but it became a cry that a lot of, like you said, the impoverished, the broken, the people that were in the lower situations, they wanted to hear this because, yeah, he knows my struggle. Me being a Christian hip hop artist, me being a Christian hip hop minister, me being a minister, I'm being told here lately, you're cultivated, you're groomed for this because you're in a world now that needs to understand and feel that somebody understands what they're going through.
People need to relate, and it was therapeutic. Not only were the lyrics expressing the pain of inner cities all over the U.S. that people don't really hear about, but it also then kind of flipped the script and let them get a sense of enjoyment, entertainment, because it had a beat. So it's kind of like, when you say you have to laugh your wounds away.
That's it. Man, you read my mind. That's what it was. It was an escape. It was actually giving my reality to you so I don't have to go live it tomorrow. So I don't have to go and do this. I just put it down on this instead of going physically doing it. And it helped them. It helps a little bit. Once the powers that be, once the label saw that it's money behind this now, the narrative got changed and we're gonna push that more. We need more of you to, more and more and more to come and talk that talk, to live this life. And then the lines get crossed into, I can't leave it on the record anymore. And we've got more and more of our young people right now that it's getting out of control to me in some aspects, because it's desensitized a lot of them to the point where they don't feel it's wrong to take from you, be it your jewelry, your money, or your life. There is no consequence, no repercussion that they feel anymore. And it's hurtful because a genre that I love is catching the blame for all of this, when it's not just in this genre. Yes, hip hop is probably the biggest form of music right now because it's stretching into everybody else's. The rocker wants a hip hop artist, the country music wants a hip hop artist, they want a hip hop feeling beat, but we catch the blame, but it's something that comes from everywhere. And so we've got to be mindful of it. But, to me, sometimes it's unfair to put that blame on. Like you said, the young women that I know, that I see, it's gotten so much worse as to how they allow themselves to be portrayed.
Well, I'll say this. I noticed myself really, just dancing to the beat. And I'm listening to the words, and I didn't see a problem with them because it had programmed in my mind. Now, I remember listening to it a few years ago as I started my own emotional spiritual journey. And I'm like, I'm coming into agreement with something that I speak is wrong. But yet when I listen to this music, I come into agreement with it. And I never really realized what I was doing and how it was actually igniting in my relationships. But I'll say this. The music isn't going to change. So there's a place inside of us as women. So we have to know our worth so much that we're not driven by it and it doesn't penetrate. Now, if I hear it, it doesn't penetrate me because I know I wear a crown.
See?
And when you know you wear a crown. So rap music has affected a lot of people, but at the same time, it's the choices that we make.
You won't hear too many hip hop artists. I mean, I went to UT Martin. I'm a student. I graduated. I made some real bonehead decisions in my life to slow things down. But you won't hear too many rappers talking about Pavlov's dogs. See, if you know anything about that type of science, that was just a simple science experiment by Pavlov, where you train these dogs to be fed at a certain time with a dinner bell. And then after a while, you ring the bell, but don't provide the food. But they've trained themselves to the point where once they hear the bell, I'm hungry. I could have eaten about 5 minutes ago, but once I hear that bell, I'm salivating because that food is supposed to be here. You play this music enough times, over and over. Listen, now that leads to radio. You play the same song throughout the day enough times, it's acceptable. So you've allowed yourself to be programmed. Once we try to look at it that way and realize that we honestly control the narrative, then that's how things can change. But it's hard to affect change in a world that the money drives it. And the more money that they have to put behind it, the harder it is to beat it. So that's even with what I do. I'm a Christian hip hop artist. I represent a genre that is gaining a lot of momentum, but even those lines are starting to blur with some of the artists that are in it. I went to a showcase and heard a gentleman stand up and say at a Christian event, I don't make songs for Christ.
So why was it there?
Okay, see how the silence was? Because that's how I felt. I'm like, what am I doing here? I mean, but his words were, I make joyful songs. I make songs to uplift the spirit. I'm like, okay. You try, no, it doesn't work for me. Sorry. What are you doing here? But, I mean, hey, it happens. And you just have to know you got to ground a cornerstone that your whole thing is built off of. Stand on your corner.
But that really affects all areas of life.
Come on, keep going.
And who hasn't ever been in a church that they've been hurt by? So I think it's really about making better decisions, being more discerning. But I will say this. So Eric 6xye Johnson here sent me a cut of one of his songs, and I sat down, I listened to it, and I like it. It's got a really nice beat to it, and it brings Job into this, and I really felt encouraged after I listened to it. And I realized at 52, I still got a little bit of beat. I still got a little bit of beat going on.
Okay.
And so, tell us what projects you're working on and where we can find you.
Okay. The name is 6xye. Spelled
Obvious.
If I stood up, you'd understand. But it's about my height. Leans a little bit more to me than that, though. And I'll say that real quick is that it also is how God programmed and made me. He knew I was going to be 6'5". And the things that I alluded to, I got into some trouble. I made some mistakes. And if we look at the numbers in biblical senses, 6 isn't a good number. If you put 3 of them together, you got evil. 7, that's the number that you really would like to have. That's God. And I happen to be 6'5", 0.5 halfway, in between both of these worlds. And I think God made me this way because I'm supposed to take those from the 6 to the 7. So I'm 6'5". I'm right in the middle of the world, but I refuse to stand on this side any longer.
Wise brother.
Try to be sometimes. Back to your answer. 6YX, the number 6YX, the number 5YVE. You can find me, and you may find some music that is not something that I'm pushing now. God gave me a gift. I misused a little bit for a little while. So anything 2010 and beyond, prior, it might not be something that your ears want to hear. But what I've got coming now, all social media, all streaming platforms, Apple Music, Spotify, Tidal, YouTube, I'm out there. I've got 4 singles out right now, and you can find those. They've just recently been pushed, but a new project is coming. And I can honestly say in my heart, I feel like it's the last project, and that's why it's called The Last Waltz. I'm from Tennessee, so it's a play on that, but 6xye presents The Last Waltz, CSW, Control Set Win. And that's the song that I sent you. That's my crown, that's my ministry moment right now.
It's nice.
Every time I do this song, it portrays my life as it starts off very fast and up tempo, but then God says, it's not a race, it's a marathon. And I'm talking about life, and you have to pace yourself to get through it. And that's all it was about. Was at the middle, you're gonna get a transition that takes you on a whoa, what just happened type of moment, but it's still the same pace if you really listen to it. I didn't do anything, it didn't change anything. It's just you slow the tempo, but it's still moving at the same pace.
Eric 6'5" Johnson.
Yes.
It has been a joy. I will say this, as a poet, I admire the way you can put lyrics to beat like that. I'm in no way a rapper or a hip hop artist, but maybe we can get together and get some of my poetry and see if we can make it some kind of little pseudo, session. See if I can still work it at 52. But I do want to thank you.
No, thank you.
You are such an inspiration, and I think that whether hip hop, in ministry, in the pulpit, God has called you to work for His glory and to tend to His children. And so I want to thank you. I want to thank you for joining us here at Holy Antiseptic. And I want to encourage you to live life knowing your worth, knowing you have choices, and knowing that you are loved. Thank you for listening as we bring communities together.